So they lied to us about the pandemic, and now it seems they're lying to us to take us to war again. This week, we had the appalling Mark Milley, who of course should have been fired in disgrace for his lies and incompetence over Afghanistan, let alone his ignorant woke pandering, hyping up Russia's military threat to Ukraine. And then Biden, the great genius of foreign policy, the adult back in charge, making a fool of himself and America, sadly, with bellicose bluster that the actual president of Ukraine told him was over the top and asked him to stop. According to the New York Times, Ukrainian officials expressed increasing annoyance with the Biden administration. And these are the people Biden says he's trying to help. Meanwhile, all those alliances Biden promised to restore completely fell apart as the Ukrainians and Russians decided to try and make progress diplomatically by meeting with the French and the Germans and excluding America. Look, I don't think it's just okay for Russia to invade another country. The Russians invaded my family's country, Hungary, in 1956 to crush our revolution. America and the West did nothing, and my family had to suffer under communism for another 30-odd years. But this is my country now, America. And what I want to know is why our leaders aren't focused on the threats to our country with anything like the energy and passion they seem to have for threats to Ukraine. The establishment seems obsessed with fighting Russia. It's Russia, Russia, Russia all over again. Just listen to the pompous grandstanding from all the senators, both parties, out on the Sunday shows this morning, talking about a bill that they want to pass this coming week.
I want sanctions on Putin's behavior now.
Sanctions.
Sanctions.
Serious sanctions.
Massive sanctions.
An array of pre-invasion sanctions.
Sanctioning.
These are sanctions beyond any that we have ever levied before.
Right.
Consequences will be devastating.
Crippling to their economy.
Crippling.
Of a crippling effect. Mother of all sanctions.
So they want the mother of all sanctions right now to try and stop Russia attacking another country. Great, good for them. But where are the sanctions against China, which has been attacking our country for years? The kinds of things these senators were citing as grounds for the mother of all sanctions were Russia's cyber attacks on Ukraine, Russia destabilizing Ukraine's economy. Well, that sure sounds familiar. China's been launching cyber attacks on us for years. Remember the theft of millions of records from the federal government's Office of Personnel Management? They stole the information of, quote, everybody who has worked for, tried to work for, or works for the United States government. China's been destabilizing our economy for decades, destroying our working class, stealing our intellectual property. They force US companies operating China, like Disney, to have Communist Party cells. These establishment boobies say we need urgent sanctions on Russia because of military maneuvers that look hostile. Where are the urgent sanctions to stop China's military maneuvers that actually are hostile? Planning to invade Taiwan, controlling the South China Sea, new ships, new missiles. People talk about Russia and its sphere of influence. How would we feel if our enemies were in our own backyard? When is our feckless establishment going to wake up? China is already in our backyard, aggressively expanding its influence in South and Central America, in the Caribbean, building roads in Jamaica, telecoms in Belize, giving computers to school kids in the Dominican Republic, infrastructure in Venezuela, a deep space listening station in Argentina. You think this is because China wants to really help those countries? These are hostile moves against America. And then, what about all the Americans the Chinese regime has killed? Through the pandemic, of course, which leaked from their lab and they could have stopped but didn't. They poured drugs into our country. There were 75,000 opioid overdoses in America last year, mostly due to fentanyl, of which China is the primary source. President Xi is a brutal authoritarian dictator. He could stop all this, but he chooses not to because he is attacking us. So where are the mother of all sanctions in response to China's attacks on our country? Nowhere, because our establishment is in bed with China, some of them literally. They bought off the Biden family with cash and lucrative deals. They forged business ties with Senator Dianne Feinstein's husband as she defended the Chinese Communist Party's public image. It's not just Democrats, of course. Elaine Chao, former transportation secretary and wife of Mitch McConnell. She was accused of abusing her office to help her family company with their China dealings. They work our systems. China exploits our broken lobbying industry to shape policy in their interests. They infiltrate our universities, steal our intellectual property. They buy American farmland to gain power over our food supply. When are we going to get serious about China? When? Our establishment is committing a slow-motion national suicide. They get all excited about sending troops to Eastern Europe, risking a new and pointless military entanglement. But they won't do the hard work of unraveling and reversing our deadly, decades-long entanglement with China. It is madness, complete madness.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.